In the quiet, tree-lined suburban streets, life often feels predictable, a comfortable rhythm of sunrise and sunset, work and rest. For Clara Hayes, a vibrant kindergarten teacher and devoted runner, this rhythm was measured not just in minutes and miles, but by the precise hum of the digital world she embraced. She moved through her days, leaving behind a trail of data, a meticulously catalogued existence of steps, heartbeats, and routines, a shadow invisible to the naked eye, a whisper of truth etched into the very fabric of her active life. Then one crisp autumn evening, that predictable world shattered. Clara vanished, leaving behind only an unlocked door and a void that ripped through the heart of her family. Her disappearance seemed total, absolute, a silent scream lost to the wind. No witnesses, no struggle reported, just an agonizing silence that screamed of a perfect crime. Yet how can a life truly disappear when every breath, every movement is documented by an unseen, unblinking eye, waiting to testify? How could the future of a seemingly unsolvable crime hinge on a silent digital witness more truthful than any human memory? In the sun-dappled expanse of Willow Creek, a town where autumn leaves descended like confetti and routines ran like well-oiled clocks, Clara Hayes was a radiant, consistent presence. At 32, she embodied boundless energy, channeling it into her beloved kindergarten classroom. There, she wasn't merely a teacher, but a patient guiding force, her bright room, a vibrant canvas of young imaginations. Each child found a special connection with Clara, nurtured by her calm demeanor and keen understanding, much like the meticulously organized learning stations that defined her teaching space. Beyond the classroom walls, Clara's life found its rhythm on the pavement. She was an ardent runner, her daily miles meticulously chronicled by the sleek fitness tracker clasped to her wrist. Every dawn witnessed her pounding the winding paths of Willow Creek Park, the crisp air filling her lungs, the digital display on her wrist, silently tallying steps, calories, and heart rate. This routine was a testament to her discipline, an intimate, unblinking record of her active existence. The evening of October 18 began like any other crisp autumn Friday. Clara set out for her usual post-work jog, the setting sun painting the sky in a fleeting display of orange and violet. She was expected back by 7:30 p.m. for a regular video call with her sister Sarah. The clock hands seemed to seize each passing minute, stretching into an eternity. The initial twilight deepened into a moonless night, cloaking Clara's small, comfortable home on Elm Street in an unsettling silence. The front door, usually secured with 2 distinct clicks of the lock, stood inexplicably ajar, a silent invitation to an empty space. Her well-worn running shoes were gone from their usual spot by the door, yet her keys lay untouched on the kitchen counter beside her phone, its screen a lifeless rectangle of black. Sarah Hayes, Clara's younger sister and closest confidant, felt the first chill of unease at 7:45 p.m. A missed video call from Clara was unprecedented, an anomaly in their bedrock routine. At 8:00 p.m. a text went unread. A quick call delivered only the impersonal drone of voicemail. By 8:30 p.m. Sarah's thumb trembled as she redialed, her breath catching in her throat as the call again spiraled directly to voicemail. Worry, a cold serpent, began to coil in her gut, tightening with each unanswered attempt. She began a desperate round of calls to friends and neighbors, her voice thin with growing apprehension. Each negative response mirrored her rising panic. The cheerful greeting of Clara's voicemail, played on repeat, became a cruel, haunting echo in the deepening quiet. Sarah sped towards Clara's house, the short drive stretching into an unbearable eternity, her heart hammering against her ribs. The single exterior light cast stark, elongated shadows across the lawn as she approached. She found the open door, a chilling void within the familiar rooms. Fear, raw and primal, clawed at her throat. Her vibrant sister, her daily text partner, her childhood companion, had simply vanished, leaving behind an absence that resonated louder than any scream. The night descended into an endless vigil, punctuated only by the unanswered ring of Clara's phone, each tone a devastating blow against Sarah's rapidly fracturing hope. The once predictable world of Willow Creek held its breath, trapped in the grip of an inexplicable disappearance. The dawn that broke over Willow Creek the following morning carried a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. It offered no solace, only a stark, indifferent light. Around 7:15 a.m., Arthur Jenkins, a local resident whose morning ritual included a walk with his spirited golden retriever, Barley, veered off the familiar paved park path. Barley, usually bounding after imagined squirrels, suddenly strained against his leash, pulling Arthur into a rarely trod thicket on the wood's periphery, a secluded patch known only to a handful of dedicated hikers. Arthur followed, calling the dog's name, and then his breath caught. Amidst the rustling leaves and damp earth lay a stillness profoundly, terrifyingly unnatural. A flash of familiar running attire, a vibrant splash of color against the muted forest floor. What Arthur stumbled upon was a scene of stark, chilling finality. Clara Hayes lay partially obscured by overgrown brush, her bright running gear a vivid, haunting contrast against the somber tones of the autumn woods. Her body bore the unmistakable, violent imprints of a brutal struggle. A raw, involuntary gasp tore from Arthur's throat, a sound swallowed by the sudden silence of the forest. His hands fumbled, numb with shock, as he reached for his phone, his fingers clumsy on the cold glass. His voice, when it finally emerged, was a choked, ragged whisper to the 911 dispatcher, barely coherent through a rising tide of nausea and disbelief. "There's a body here in the woods. It's a woman. I think she's dead." The call, flagged as an immediate priority, shattered the morning calm. Within minutes, the distant wail of sirens sliced through the quiet, growing steadily louder as the first uniformed patrol units from the Willow Creek Police Department converged. Cruisers kicked up dust on the narrow, unpaved track leading to the tree line. Officers, their faces grim and set, moved with practiced efficiency, immediately establishing a preliminary perimeter. Yellow crime scene tape, fluorescent against the muted greens and browns, snapped tautly against the tree trunks, delineating a new, horrifying boundary in the once tranquil woods. Their movements were precise, methodical, yet an unspoken heavyweight hung in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the tragedy. Emergency medical services personnel confirmed the inevitable. Clara Hayes was deceased. Moments later, Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne arrived. He entered the scene with the focused intensity of a gathering storm, his presence commanding immediate attention without a single uttered word. Thorne, a man whose tenure in homicide had etched lines of quiet, unyielding resolve around his eyes, surveyed the unfolding chaos. He moved with a practiced calm, his gaze sweeping over the uniformed officers, the forensics team already beginning their meticulous grid search before finally settling on the tragic centerpiece of their investigation. His mind, already sifting through the limited information, began to assemble the grim, complex puzzle. The initial assessment of the crime scene offered unsettling ambiguities. Clear indicators of a violent struggle were evident: disturbed leaves, deep scuff marks on the soft earth painting a picture of a desperate fight for survival. Yet the immediate area yielded no obvious weapon. No discarded knife, no blunt object, nothing that definitively pointed to the instrument of death. The lack of an overt, immediate motive was equally perplexing. Clara Hayes, a woman known for her quiet community life and vibrant spirit, had left no enemies behind. Her murder plunged the nascent investigation into a disquieting vacuum, a chilling puzzle missing its most fundamental pieces. The forest held its secrets close, but Detective Thorne knew from long, somber experience that every crime scene whispers its truth if only one knows how to listen. The grim discovery in the Willow Creek woods had cleaved the town's placid existence in two. At the Willow Creek Police Department, Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne, a man whose professional calm belied a relentless internal drive, systematically took command. His office, typically a space for quiet contemplation, now hummed with the focused energy of a nascent murder inquiry. The whiteboard on his wall already bore the nascent skeletal structure of the case, initial timeline, victim profile, and a growing list of preliminary actions. Thorne was a pragmatist, his approach honed by decades of navigating the most brutal human landscapes, and he knew that, without foundational intelligence, even the sharpest instincts were blind. The initial days were consumed by the painstaking, often thankless grind of traditional police work. Uniformed officers fanned out across Willow Creek, their focus honed on Clara's neighborhood and the areas surrounding the park. They moved door to door, their voices steady but persistent, inquiring about unfamiliar vehicles, unusual loiterers, or any disturbance on that Friday evening. The community offered a torrent of sorrow and sympathy, but little else. Residents spoke of Clara's friendly waves on her morning runs, the familiar silhouette of her car in the driveway, but no one had seen anything out of place, nothing that pierced the veil of the ordinary. The collective memory of Willow Creek, once a comforting chronicle of quiet lives, now proved an empty canvas concerning Clara's final moments. Simultaneously, the delicate but critical task of interviewing Clara's inner circle began. Colleagues at Willow Creek Elementary spoke of her unwavering dedication, her infectious optimism that brightened even the grayest school days. Her running partners recounted her disciplined spirit and zest for life, but no one could fathom a reason for such violence. But it was Sarah Hayes, Clara's younger sister, who carried the heaviest burden of grief. Seated opposite Detective Thorne, in the sterile confines of an interview room, Sarah's face was raw, her eyes swollen and bloodshot from a night of endless tears. Yet amidst the profound pain, a flinty resolve began to solidify around her jaw. She was my compass, my anchor, Sarah choked out, her voice barely a whisper, a hand rising to brush away a lone tear that traced a path through the dried salt on her cheek. My best friend. We spoke every single day. She was so full of life, so meticulous, so fundamentally good. Who could have done this? Her hands, tightly clasped in her lap, trembled. She loved those kids more than anything. She had no enemies. She lived a life without unnecessary risks. Thorne listened, his gaze unyielding, acknowledging her sorrow without allowing it to cloud his investigative focus. He probed gently, asking about Clara's routines, her relationships, any recent shifts or conflicts, however minor. Sarah searched her memory, a frantic, desperate scramble, for any fragment but found only the crushing, suffocating weight of her sister's absence. I need to understand what happened. I need justice for her, she insisted, her voice gaining a sharp, unwavering edge that belied her exhaustion. In parallel, forensic teams worked with the methodical precision of surgeons dissecting every inch of the crime scene. They meticulously sifted through the damp leaves, mapped disturbed soil with laser grids, and documented every angle with stark photographs. Clara's home, once a sanctuary, was equally subjected to this exhaustive scrutiny. Fingerprint, powder-coated doorknobs and surfaces, every item from mundane kitchenware to personal effects was catalogued, bagged, and dispatched for analysis. Initial reports from the medical examiner confirmed the violence of the attack, but yielded no immediate DNA matches from existing databases. This absence of a quick hit, combined with the lack of a recovered weapon at the scene or in her home, added another layer of baffling complexity. The early leads coalesced into a frustrating tapestry of dead ends. A neighbor recalled a dog barking but couldn't fix the exact time. A delivery driver thought they'd seen a dark sedan on Elm Street, but its make and license plate were lost to the fog of memory. Each potential thread painstakingly pursued frayed into nothingness, leaving the investigation adrift in a disquieting vacuum. The initial surge of activity began to settle into the slow, arduous grind characteristic of a case with no clear direction. The fear, once a distant hum, now rippled visibly through the heart of Willow Creek. Parents held their children closer. Evening jogs were replaced by the security of indoor routines. The idyllic facade of the town had cracked, revealing an unsettling undercurrent of vulnerability. For Detective Thorne, the pressure mounted. The case of Clara Hayes, a beloved teacher, a seemingly blameless victim, had seized the community's collective anguish. He understood the urgency, the desperate yearning for answers. But as days bled into a week, the core question remained stubbornly, profoundly unanswered. Who would perpetrate such an act of violence against Clara Hayes, and how had they managed to vanish without leaving a single undeniable trace? The pieces of the puzzle lay scattered, refusing to form a coherent picture, demanding an unconventional key to unlock their secret. As the methodical, painstaking search of the crime scene persisted, every inch of the secluded patch of woods near Willow Creek Park was subjected to exhaustive scrutiny. The forensics team, in their sterile white suits, moved with silent, synchronized precision, sifting through layers of damp earth and fallen autumn leaves. Their objective was singular: to uncover every fragment, every potential clue, no matter its size or apparent insignificance. It was deep within the dense undergrowth, several meters from where Clara Hayes' body was discovered, that a single dark object emerged. Snagged on a gnarled root, partially obscured by detritus, lay a small black wristband, Clara's distinctive Fitbit. This unassuming piece of wearable technology, a commonplace accessory in the modern world, was in fact a meticulous data repository. The omniscient narrator clarifies its quiet, potent capabilities. A fitness tracker, like Clara's Fitbit, ceaselessly collects a rich tapestry of personal data. It tracks steps records, distance, and calculates calories burned. Crucially, its optical sensors provide a continuous readout of heart rate, registering even subtle fluctuations throughout the day and night. Internal accelerometers discern precise activity types, differentiating a brisk walk from a sustained sprint, or registering the abrupt, forceful impact of a fall or struggle. This stream of information, often uploaded seamlessly to a cloud server, forms a precise chronological digital footprint of the wearer's every movement and physiological state. Initially, the Fitbit was processed as simply another item of evidence. It was carefully bagged, meticulously labeled, and transported back to the Willow Creek Police Department's evidence locker, joining dozens of other samples recovered from the crime scene and Clara's home. For many, it was merely Clara's personal belonging, a poignant tragic memento of a life abruptly extinguished. Its deeper significance, its profound potential as an objective digital witness, remained largely unappreciated, its precise record of Clara's final moments still encrypted unheard. However, a different intuition stirred within one member of Detective Sergeant Thorne's team. Analyst Chloe Evans, a sharp, forward-thinking junior tech specialist, was charged with cataloging and initiating the preliminary forensic examination of all recovered electronic devices. When Clara's Fitbit landed on her sterile lab bench, a distinct current of curiosity ran through her. Chloe understood the burgeoning capabilities of wearable technology, recognizing that this small device might contain more than just mundane fitness metrics. For her, it wasn't simply a gadget. It was a potential digital echo of Clara's last moments, a silent, unbiased recorder awaiting extraction. The initial forensic examination confirmed its ownership. The immediate challenge was clear: extract its data, unlock the encrypted secrets it might hold, and ascertain if this inconspicuous black band could provide a crucial first piece of irrefutable truth in a case stubbornly shrouded in baffling silence. The frustrating labyrinth of early leads suddenly gained a fragile, unexpected thread, an unforeseen pivot from the digital reel. As traditional leads withered into frustrating dead ends, Detective Thorne's focus began to subtly shift. His attention turned toward individuals connected to Clara Hayes in less obvious, more tangential ways. Early in the investigation, a brief conversation with Ethan Riley, a former administrative assistant who had worked alongside Clara at Willow Creek Elementary for about a year, had occurred. Riley had transferred out of the district 6 months prior and seemed unremarkable then. Yet, Thorne distinctly recalled a subtle, almost imperceptible stiffness in Riley's posture, a fleeting, unnervingly smooth expression when Clara's name was first spoken, nothing concrete, but a faint tremor on Thorne's seasoned radar. Now, with the investigation at a grinding halt, that initial flicker of intuition returned. Ethan Riley's name resurfaced during a meticulous review of Clara's casual acquaintances, those outside her tight, well-defined circle. A deeper dive into his background revealed no criminal record, no history of violence, yet it uncovered a distinct pattern of meticulous, almost obsessive organization in his professional life. This alone was enough to warrant a second, more formal interview. Ethan Riley arrived at the Willow Creek Police Department's interview room with an unnerving composure. His immaculately pressed shirt and precisely combed hair conveyed a man for whom order was paramount. As Detective Thorne and his partner, Detective Lena Rodriguez, laid out the grim details of Clara's murder, Riley's expression remained placid, marked only by a polite, almost performative sympathy. "I'm truly shocked," Riley stated, his voice a level monotone, his gaze direct and unblinking. She was a genuinely lovely person. Just tragic." Thorne, observing Riley with an unwavering intensity, noted the absence of genuine emotional resonance, a subtle but significant disconnect between Riley's carefully chosen words and his tightly controlled demeanor. He then smoothly transitioned the conversation to the night of the murder. Riley readily provided an alibi, delivered with a meticulous precision that bordered unrehearsed. He claimed that on the evening of October 18th, he had been at his family's secluded cabin, located nearly 3 hours north of Willow Creek, within the tranquil Redwood Preserve. He described battling a sudden severe bout of influenza, which had incapacitated him, forcing him to seek solitude away from his family to avoid contagion. He recounted a specific, almost cinematic sequence of events driving to the cabin, feeling increasingly unwell pulling over on a remote logging road when his car suddenly developed engine trouble, and then calling a local towing service. "I was running a high fever," Riley explained, a faint furrow appearing between his brows, as if recalling physical agony. "Couldn't even keep water down. Cabin was isolated, no cell service, so when my car sputtered out, I had to hike a mile just to find a signal to call a tow truck. A real nightmare of a night, honestly." His alibi found initial corroboration from a single yet geographically distant witness, a tow truck mechanic named Lyle Peterson from the nearest rural town. Peterson confirmed receiving a call around 8:45 p.m. that evening from a man fitting Riley's description, stranded on Old Mill Road, a rarely used logging track. He recalled towing Riley's vehicle back to his garage, and then dropping Riley off at a remote crossroad, where Riley claimed he would walk the final mile to his cabin. Peterson's account, while not placing Riley inside the cabin, definitively positioned him a significant distance from Willow Creek during the critical hours. Detective Thorne listened, his expression impassive, revealing nothing. Yet his seasoned instincts hummed with a subtle, unshakable skepticism. The alibi felt too flawless, too perfectly constructed, almost overly detailed in its recall of minor ailments and travel woes. It presented a complete and total absence from Willow Creek, seemingly providing an impenetrable shield against any suspicion. Thorne had witnessed enough artful deceptions in his career to know that such calculated perfection often masked a far darker truth. He offered no outward sign of his doubt, allowing Riley's narrative to stand for, creating a simmering narrative tension between the presented truth and Thorne's deep-seated professional suspicion. Ethan Riley had deployed his shield, and for the moment it appeared to hold. While Detective Thorne's team pursued traditional investigative avenues and Ethan Riley's carefully constructed alibi seemed to momentarily hold a pivotal moment, was quietly unfolding within the Willow Creek Police Department's digital forensics lab. The entire focus had now shifted to the unassuming black wristband recovered from the crime scene, Clara Hayes's Fitbit. Under the seasoned guidance of Dr. Eris Thorne, a veteran digital forensics expert, and fueled by the sharp intuition of junior analyst Chloe Evans, the meticulous process of data extraction commenced. The task proved delicate. The device, having been exposed to the elements, presented inherent challenges. However, Dr. Thorne's specialized team possessed the advanced tools and expertise necessary to navigate its protective protocols and access the raw data streams. For hours, Chloe Evans remained hunched over her workstation, the cool glow of the screen illuminating her intense gaze as complex algorithms relentlessly parsed through gigabytes of encrypted information. Slowly, piece by painstaking piece, a comprehensive digital record of Clara's final moments began to coalesce, revealing a hidden narrative. The extracted data proved to be far more than a mere collection of fitness statistics. It was a precise, granular chronicle of Clara's physiological responses and physical activity in the time leading up to her death. It charted her heart rate, her step count, and even the subtle changes in her body's orientation. This raw information, once meticulously rendered into stark, unmistakable graphs and detailed timelines, presented a sequence of events entirely at odds with a sudden, unobserved attack by an unknown assailant. A simple piece of technology designed solely for health and personal wellness had become an unblinking, unwavering chronicler of violence. Who could have truly imagined that the quiet data collected during a routine jog would hold such a profound, undeniable key to a murder investigation? The Fitbit's timeline was chillingly precise. It showed Clara commencing her run at 6:45 p.m. a steady rhythm of steps and a consistent heart rate perfectly aligned with her established routine. Then, at precisely 7:02 p.m., the data registered an abrupt, dramatic escalation in heart rate, surging from her typical exertion rate of 140 beats per minute to over 180. This indicated an immediate, intense physical exertion or profound stress. Simultaneously, the accelerometer data, which normally displayed the rhythmic cadence of running, became violently erratic, signifying a struggle, a forceful impact, followed by a series of rapid involuntary movements. Within 60 seconds, at 7:03 p.m., all recorded activity ceased entirely and her heart rate flatlined. The instantaneous and complete cessation of all vital signs and movement was definitive, undeniable. This vivid digital narrative formed an unassailable counterpoint to Ethan Riley's meticulously constructed alibi. Riley had asserted he was hours away at his secluded cabin, incapacitated by the flu, by 7:00 p.m. Yet, the Fitbit undeniably placed Clara Hayes in Willow Creek, engaged in a desperate struggle at precisely 7:02 p.m., with her life ending mere moments later. Furthermore, the device's embedded GPS data, while not offering pinpoint street accuracy, conclusively confirmed the coordinates of the violent cessation of activity were located precisely within the secluded patch of woods where her body was discovered. No movement was recorded at the crime scene that remotely aligned with Riley's alleged presence at his remote cabin. The digital timeline and eloquent testimony from the victim's own body laid bare a profound, undeniable inconsistency that utterly shattered Ethan Riley's carefully engineered facade. The truth so long obscured by earth and lies had finally found its unequivocal voice in a tiny black band. The chilled air of the Willow Creek Police Department interrogation room pulsed with a unique charged tension. It was a psychological arena where the relentless pursuit of truth wrestled with ingrained deception. Armed with the Fitbit's unyielding digital timeline, Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne and his partner Detective Lena Rodriguez escorted Ethan Riley in for his second interview. Riley entered with the same measured composure he had displayed days prior, an almost imperceptible air of confident control around him. He settled into the chair opposite Thorne's hands, resting loosely on the table, his demeanor cooperative, utterly untroubled. Thorne began methodically guiding the conversation back to the evening of Clara's murder, inviting Riley to recount his movements once more. Riley obliged his voice, even his narrative, unfolding with a practiced, seamless ease. He reiterated his story of the sudden flu, the isolated cabin 3 hours away, the car trouble on the remote logging road, and the tow truck mechanic who had confirmed his distant whereabouts. He painted a vivid tableau of solitude and legitimate illness, carefully constructing a narrative of a man legitimately incapacitated and miles from Willow Creek. His words were a meticulously reinforced fortress, each detail placed with surgical precision. Thorne listened, allowing Riley to complete his entire account without a single interruption, his gaze unwavering, fixed on Riley's eyes. When Riley finished, a faint, almost self-satisfied curve touched his lips. It was then that Thorne made his move. Without a word, he pivoted to the large monitor mounted on the wall. Detective Rodriguez dimmed the lights, plunging the room into shadow, and then a stark clinical graph filled the screen. Clara Hayes's Fitbit data. The sudden, stark visual shift was immediate and jarring. Riley's eyes, which had maintained an almost casual indifference, widened fractionally, a subtle flinch, as the vibrant green line tracing Clara's heart rate became undeniably visible. Thorne's voice, now stripped of its earlier conversational tone, became a low, precise instrument, a hammer striking cold steel. Mr. Riley, Thorne began, his finger pointing to a specific jagged spike on the timeline. This is Clara Hayes' recorded activity on the night of her death. We see her run beginning here at 6:45 p.m. A consistent pace, a normal, healthy heart rate. His finger moved along the ascending line. Then here, at exactly 7:02 p.m., Riley's composure, once so unyielding, began its slow, chilling crack. His jaw tensed, a muscle twitching visibly near his temple. His eyes narrowed, darting frantically between Thorne's impassive face and the undeniable glowing data on the screen. He shifted in his seat, a subtle, almost involuntary tremor tracing his frame. His previous calm had evaporated, replaced by a palpable, gnawing agitation. Thorne continued, his voice unwavering, devoid of accusation, yet heavy with the irrefutable weight of scientific fact. At 7:02 p.m., her heart rate spikes dramatically, over 180 beats per minute. The accelerometers record violent, erratic movement, entirely consistent with the struggle. And then at 7:03 p.m., Mr. Riley, complete cessation. Her heart rate flatlines. Riley's breath hitched, a choked sound, lost in the silence. He attempted a dismissive wave of his hand, a thin, feigned scoff. That device is faulty. They malfunction all the time. Everyone knows that. I was hours away. I told you. I was sick. My car broke down. His voice, though still attempting to sound rational, had lost its previous evenness, now strained, thin, tinged with a nascent desperation. Thorne offered no counter, no further words. He simply let his statement hang in the air, allowing the profound silence and the stark image on the screen to do their work. The data remained unyielding, a silent accusation, far more potent than any shouted word. The subtle flicker of fear in Riley's eyes intensified, becoming overtly pronounced as his carefully constructed mask of innocence began its inevitable chilling unraveling. The digital timeline, Clara's own final heartbeat, was now speaking directly to the man who claimed to be miles away, and he had no answer. The stark reality of Clara's Fitbit data projected large and unyielding on the interrogation room monitor exerted an undeniable pressure on Ethan Riley. His earlier composure, once so confidently maintained, began to visibly splinter, exposing raw, frayed nerves beneath. He clung desperately to his initial fabrication, his voice taut, bordering on shrill. It's a malfunction. These things are notorious for it. A glitch. I was hours away. I was sick. His words tumbled out a frantic, almost breathless defense of an increasingly flimsy facade. Detective Thorne, however, remained a monolith of calm. He permitted Riley's hurried protestations, then countered with quiet, clinical precision. Mr. Riley, our forensic experts assure us the data is pristine. It's corroborated by the device's internal diagnostics. There's no indication of malfunction, no external interference. The device was recording Clara Hayes. Here. Thorne's finger tapped the ominous spike on the screen, then slid to the flatline. At 7:02 p.m. While you claim to be hundreds of miles distant, Riley's eyes darted frantically, scanning the room, as if searching for an invisible exit. His previous placid demeanor had completely evaporated, replaced by a jittery agitation that made his movements restless. Perhaps I wasn't entirely alone at the cabin, he stammered, his voice climbing to a higher, more evasive pitch. He cleared his throat, an anxious, rasping sound. Yes, that's it. I had a visitor. A brief, secret rendezvous. Someone I absolutely wouldn't want implicated in this. That's why I omitted it. Very embarrassing. Thorne leaned forward, his voice a steady current, betraying no hint of triumph. A secret rendezvous on a night you described, battling a severe flu too, incapacitated to even keep water down. And who was this individual, Mr. Riley? Their name might help corroborate this new account. Riley's jaw clamped shut, a hard line forming. His gaze flickered wildly, refusing to meet Thorne's direct stare. No, I can't. It's private. Excessively private. They wouldn't tolerate their name being publicized. It was quick. They left almost immediately after I arrived. They could have departed the cabin then. Maybe that's what explains the data. He waved a dismissive, desperate hand towards the unyielding screen. They were there and then they weren't. Perhaps the device registered something after they had gone. Detective Rodriguez cut in, her tone calm but unwavering. Mr. Riley, your initial statement was explicitly clear. You were alone. Hours away, incapacitated by illness. Now you introduce an unnamed secret visitor on a remote road where a tow truck driver confirmed he picked up you, not you, and another person. Which version of events, Mr. Riley, are we to believe? The cumulative pressure mounted, a relentless, invisible weight crushing down. Riley's veneer of control finally shattered. He slammed his open palm onto the table, a sharp, unexpected crack echoing in the quiet room. Look, I'm trying to help. It's complicated. This device, it's just confusing everything. It's not accurate. It cannot be. His voice rose to a strained, frantic shout tinged with a raw desperation. He ran a trembling hand through his hair, disheveling his once meticulous appearance, his eyes wide and hunted, darting nervously towards the closed door, as if contemplating a futile bolt. Thorne allowed the silence to stretch, letting Riley's agitated words hang a stark testament to his complete unraveling. The data is accurate, Mr. Riley, Thorne finally stated, his voice a low, unwavering current. It presents a story that directly contradicts every single iteration of your alibi. It reveals Clara Hayes was here. It shows she struggled violently. And it confirms her life ended just minutes after your timeline claims you were hundreds of miles away. The digital record does not fabricate, but someone in this room is. Riley's breath came in ragged, shallow gasps, his chest heaving. He pushed back from the table, rising slightly, as if to stand and confront the unyielding truth, then faltered, sinking back into the chair, his movements stiff, almost robotic. The elaborate web of lies he had meticulously spun now, tightened around him, each frantic attempt to escape only binding him more securely. His carefully constructed facade lay in complete ruins, utterly exposed by the chilling, undeniable truth etched into a small black band. The true, terrifying depths of his deception were now slowly, inexorably coming into the light. The unyielding timeline extracted from Clara's Fitbit didn't just provide a clue. It fundamentally transformed the entire investigative approach. No longer were detectives navigating in the dark. The digital data served as an illuminated blueprint, a precise forensic roadmap for the remainder of the inquiry. Detective Sergeant Thorne, now armed with the Fitbit's compelling narrative, immediately redirected his team, instructing them to re-examine all previously collected evidence through the sharp, undeniable lens of this new digital witness. Phone records, initially dismissed as unhelpful due to their sheer volume and an apparent lack of direct incriminating content, were now subjected to a meticulous reanalysis. Ethan Riley's cell phone activity, particularly his cell tower pings, became a critical point of renewed focus. Analysts meticulously cross-referenced his network activity with the precise timing provided by the Fitbit. The results were damning. While Riley adamantly maintained he was at his remote cabin hours away, supposedly battling a severe flu, his phone's digital trail told an entirely different, irrefutable story. Between 6:30 p.m. and 7:15 p.m. on the night of the murder, Riley's phone had consistently connected with cell towers in the Willow Creek area. This digital breadcrumb trail placed him undeniably within a few miles of Clara's running route, and crucially in close proximity to the crime scene, directly contradicting his alibi of being hundreds of miles away in Redwood Preserve. His flu-ridden isolation was exposed as a carefully constructed fabrication, shattered by the silent, omnipresent testimony of cell tower data. The detectives then turned their intensified attention to local surveillance footage. Willow Creek, a town that largely prided itself on its quiet residential character, naturally had fewer public cameras than a bustling metropolitan area. Yet, Clara's running route traversed past a handful of commercial establishments that did utilize external cameras. A gas station near the park, whose external cameras had only captured fleeting low-resolution glimpses of the road, had provided marginal, almost useless footage in the initial unfocused sweep. Now armed with the precise time frame provided by the Fitbit, investigators meticulously reviewed every second of footage from 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. And there it was. At exactly 6:55 p.m., a single fleeting frame captured a vehicle unmistakably matching the exact model and distinctive dark blue color of Ethan Riley's sedan. It passed the gas station, heading towards the park entrance, placing it precisely on Clara's running route. The image, though grainy, possessed an unambiguous timestamp. While it wasn't a clear shot of Riley himself, the undeniable presence of his vehicle at that specific location and time, coupled with his persistent cell phone pings and the Fitbit's irrefutable timeline, solidified the emerging picture of calculated deception. The omniscient narrator underscores the transformative power of this digital evidence. The Fitbit had not simply offered a piece of the puzzle. It had provided the complete conceptual framework, the undeniable truth that allowed traditional investigative methods to finally yield fruit. The early frustration that had plagued the team dissipated entirely, replaced by a surge of renewed purpose and absolute certainty. Each new piece of evidence, once an isolated, confusing fragment, now clicked perfectly into place, building an overwhelming, unassailable case against Ethan Riley. What had initially seemed like a baffling, motiveless crime perpetrated by an invisible assailant was now illuminated by the unwavering objective light of digital forensics. The quiet hum of data had swelled into a roar of irrefutable corroboration. The net, once cast wide and unfocused, was now tightening with merciless, unavoidable precision around its target. With the unassailable forensic evidence meticulously extracted from Clara's Fitbit, the complete and total unraveling of Ethan Riley's carefully constructed alibi, and the mounting layers of corroborating phone records and surveillance footage, Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne possessed the undeniable truth. The scattered pieces of the puzzle, once maddeningly elusive, now snapped together, forming a grim, irrefutable image of culpability. There was no longer a shadow of doubt about who was responsible for Clara Hayes' brutal murder. The Willow Creek Police Department, galvanized by the breakthrough, moved with decisive speed. A formal arrest warrant for Ethan Riley was swiftly secured based on overwhelming probable cause for homicide. The apprehension of Ethan Riley unfolded with dispassionate, clinical precision. He was taken into custody at his suburban home on a crisp Tuesday morning, just as he was preparing for his commute to his new administrative position. The instant the uniformed officers appeared on his porch, his meticulously ordered world visibly fractured. His composure, typically so impenetrable, finally crumbled like brittle glass. His eyes, for the first time, held a stark flicker of genuine shock, swiftly followed by a profound, crushing realization of his absolute vulnerability. It was a brutal moment of unavoidable reality for a man who had meticulously woven an intricate cloak of digital invisibility, utterly convinced that his every illicit movement, his every calculated lie, had remained unperceived. He had erroneously believed his digital footprint was negligible, an unseen detail, lost in the vastness of the internet. Yet it had become the very inescapable chain that now bound him. The subsequent indictment followed rapidly. A grand jury presented with the unassailable body of evidence, including the revolutionary Fitbit data, the damning precision of cell tower pings, and the irrefutable surveillance image, found compelling cause to formally charge Ethan Riley with the first-degree murder of Clara Hayes. The once quiet disappearance of a beloved teacher had irrevocably escalated into a full-blown criminal prosecution. The investigation, which had agonizingly begun in a vacuum of mystery and frustration, now solidified into an arduous legal battle for justice. For Sarah Hayes, the news of the arrest brought a guarded, fragile sense of relief. When Detective Thorne delivered the long-awaited update, Sarah's hands trembled, a wave of profound, complex emotion washing over her. "They got him," she whispered the words, barely audible, her voice thick with unshed tears. It was not joy, not yet, but a faint, almost imperceptible flicker of hope in the long, dark journey towards accountability for her sister. The suffocating weight of uncertainty had for the first time lifted, replaced by the grim clarity of a defined path forward. "It's a critical step," Sarah Thorne affirmed, his voice gentle but resolute. "The evidence is exceptionally strong." Sarah nodded slowly, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. "Claire, she deserves this. She deserves true justice." The initial shock and raw, debilitating grief had slowly, inexorably hardened into a fierce, determined advocacy. She knew, as did Thorne, that the arrest was only the initial stage. The true fight, the arduous, emotionally taxing battle within the justice system, was just beginning. But for the first time since Clara vanished, there was a name, a face, and undeniable proof that her sister's story would finally resonate with unwavering clarity in a court of law. The truth, now unavoidable, was ready to seize center stage. The hallowed halls of justice rarely bore witness to a principal witness as unconventional, yet as irrefutable as the one presented in the state of Willow Creek vs. Ethan Riley. The narrative now shifted from the quiet intensity of the detective's office to the hushed, charged atmosphere of the courtroom, where the prosecution meticulously constructed its formidable case against Riley. The central pillar of their argument, the undeniable evidence that systematically stripped away every layer of his calculated deceit, was Clara Hayes' Fitbit. Dr. Eris Thorne, the lead digital forensics expert, took the stand with an almost academic calm, his explanations precise and unwavering. He guided the jury through the intricate mechanics of the Fitbit's technology, detailing its array of sensors and their capacity to capture minute-by-minute physiological data. On a large looming screen, the very graphs and timelines that had so profoundly shattered Riley's carefully rehearsed alibi during the interrogation were starkly projected for all to comprehend. Dr. Thorne, using a laser pointer, indicated the dramatic surge in Clara's heart rate at 7:02 p.m., concurrently describing the accelerometer data that revealed a violent, desperate struggle, culminating in the chilling flatline at precisely 7:03 p.m. This unassuming device, Dr. Thorne testified, his voice clear and authoritative, resonating through the silent courtroom, recorded the precise moments of mess. Hayes' final struggle, and the definitive cessation of her life functions. The collected data is consistent, entirely uncorrupted, and unequivocally places her at the crime scene at the exact timestamp Mr. Riley claims to have been hundreds of miles away. Ethan Riley's defense team, acutely aware of the prosecution's most potent weapon, launched a desperate, concerted effort to discredit the technology itself. They argued strenuously for potential device malfunction, for unseen external interference, for the inherent unreliability of consumer-grade electronics within the rigorous context of forensic analysis. They posited complex theoretical scenarios of sensor error, of trauma-induced false readings. Yet, the scientific evidence presented by Dr. Thorne and his dedicated team proved too robust, too painstakingly precise, and ultimately too compelling to be undermined. Each defense challenge was met with detailed, meticulous explanations of calibration protocols, data integrity checks, and a clear, irrefutable demonstration of the device's consistent, unwavering accuracy. The digital witness remained resolute, its silent testimony utterly unshakable. Then the profound, visceral human cost of the crime was laid bare. Sarah Hayes, Clara's sister, approached the witness stand, her frame trembling slightly, yet her eyes blazed with a fierce, unyielding resolve. She first faced the jury, then deliberately turned her gaze towards Ethan Riley, who sat impassive at the defense table, his face a mask. Her voice, initially fragile and laced with grief, gained a searing strength with each uttered word, articulating the profound, aching void Clara's absence had left in their lives. She spoke of Clara's infectious, unrestrained laughter, her boundless dedication to her young students, the vibrant dreams that were so brutally extinguished. Clara was more than just a statistic in a police report, Sarah declared, her voice now firm, resonating through the silent courtroom. She was a cherished daughter, a beloved sister, a loyal friend. She was pure light, and her precious life was stolen by a man who then lied about it shamelessly over and over again. Her voice momentarily broke, but she forced herself forward, her gaze unwavering as she fixed it on Riley. Ethan Riley must never again be allowed to walk freely upon this earth. He must be held absolutely accountable for ripping our family apart, for extinguishing such a beautiful, vital soul. Her demand for accountability, raw and deeply personal, saturated the air, a powerful, wrenching testament to a sister's unwavering, relentless demand for ultimate justice. The very air within the courtroom hung heavy, thick, with a collective anticipation that bordered on suffocating. The jury had deliberated for only a day and a half, a swiftness that profoundly underscored the compelling strength of the prosecution's case and the undeniable weight of the evidence. As the jury foreman stood delivering the verdict, every breath in the gallery seemed to hitch caught in a shared moment of suspended animation. Sarah Hayes, seated rigidly in the front row, clasped her hands tightly in her lap, her knuckles white, her gaze locked onto the foreman's face. Beside her, Detective Sergeant Thorne watched Ethan Riley, who meticulously maintained a facade of passive indifference, his eyes betraying nothing but a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in his jaw. Then the word came. A single clear declaration that sliced through the palpable tension. Guilty. A collective shuddering exhale rippled through the courtroom, a release of breath held for too long. Sarah Hayes's shoulders slumped, a sob escaping her lips, a sound of profound relief, inextricably mingled with an aching grief that simply refused to fully dissipate. Across the room, Ethan Riley's carefully constructed mask finally shattered. His eyes for a split second widened in genuine horror before a flicker of hard-won defiance hardened his features. He remained seated, unmoving, as the full, crushing weight of the verdict descended upon him. The solemn sentencing hearing unfolded weeks later, a somber culmination of the painful, protracted journey. Judge Eleanor Vance presided, her voice grave and resonant, as she meticulously recounted the brutal facts of Clara Hayes's murder and the relentless, intricate police work that had meticulously brought her killer to justice. Ethan Riley, standing before the court, offered no apology, no discernible remorse. His silence, a chilling testament to his self-preservation, only deepened the sense of his profound, unsettling detachment. Judge Vance then pronounced sentence. "Ethan Riley," she declared, her voice resonating with the full authority of the law, "for the calculated and cruel murder of Clara Hayes, a life of immense value and light, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This court finds that your actions were premeditated, your deception elaborate, and your disregard for human life absolute. May this conviction bring some measure of peace to the victim's family, knowing that justice, often a deliberate force, had finally reached its unyielding mark." For Sarah Hayes, the outcome was not a joyous celebration, but rather a profound, albeit fragile sense of closure. The raw, searing pain of loss would forever remain a constant ache in her heart, a permanent shadow. Yet the crushing burden of uncertainty, the torment of not knowing, had at last been lifted. Her sister Clara had found a powerful voice, not through human testimony alone, but through the silent digital chronicle of her final moments. Sarah looked down at a cherished picture of Claire. She carried a faint, melancholic smile touching her lips. The arduous pursuit of justice, often a winding, treacherous path through darkness, had at last reached its inevitable destination. The case of Clara Hayes transcended the boundaries of a tragic local murder. It stood as a stark, compelling reminder of the dynamically evolving landscape of criminal investigation. In an increasingly interconnected world, where every deliberate step, every vital heartbeat, every digital interaction leaves an indelible trail, the concept of a truly invisible crime becomes ever more elusive. The very technology designed to enhance and simplify human life can, in unforeseen and profound ways, also bear unblinking witness to its brutal end. Claire Hayes, a vibrant teacher and dedicated runner, lived a life meticulously marked by routine and profound purpose. And when her life was violently extinguished, her own silent digital companion spoke with irrefutable clarity, offering an unassailable truth that ensured her story was heard. Her killer was irrevocably exposed, and justice, with an inexorable march, was finally served. In the silent hum of the digital age, truth, however hidden, will always find its voice. If the silent testimony of truth, brought to light by the unexpected digital footprint, compels you, then subscribe to Shadow Files for more journeys into the unyielding pursuit of justice. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Files and hit the notification bell.